Hello, my name is Kevin. I am a First Nations advocate with Dementia Australia. For more than 50,000 years, we have come together to trade knowledge, to learn and to teach. Today, we join to keep up that tradition. So with that in mind, we now pay our respects to the traditional owners, to elders past and present, to those First Nations people joining us here today.
Hey Mag, should we go and get the coloured Play-Doh out?
Yep,
Which colours do you like?
the green.
The green? Where's the green?
Here,
Okay, what is it you're doing?
putting green in here.
Okay,
Uh,
how do you do it?
like this.
Ah, what's happened?
It's all mixed in.
Pink and what other colour?
Pink and green. It's a lollipop.
Looks like a lolly. You could make a round bit and put it on the top. Roll that up with your hands. Do you remember how to roll it into a ball? That's clever.
Now put it on carefully. This is easy.
That's Jim Rogers, doing what so many grandparents love to do, caring for his 3-year-old granddaughter. Her name's Maggie. Except his situation is a little different from most. Jim is living with younger onset Alzheimer's. I'm Hamish Macdonald, and this is Hold the Moment. It's a podcast from Dementia Australia about dealing with life after a diagnosis of dementia. Across this series, you've been hearing from people living with dementia and how they're dealing with some of the changes they're faced with. Whether it's adjusting to a new exercise routine, grappling with disturbances to sleep, coping with changes to your close relationships with family and friends. It's something my family's had to deal with too. My own dad has Parkinson's and Lewy body dementia, and you'll hear more about that later in this episode. And I'm hosting this series with my friend Jim.
G'day, Haim. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Good to see you. I know you're really close with your entire family and they've been critical to every stage of your journey, but just tell me a little bit about the Rogers clan.
Well, the Rogers clan are amazing, but I'm biased. So I've got my husband, Ty, who is amazing human. We've been together for 25 years next year. My eldest daughter, Millie, my youngest daughter, Daisy, and also my son, Harvey, who's in the Gold Coast. So yeah, they're a pretty amazing bunch and I love them to bits.
All right, let's meet your daughters, Millie and Daisy.
I'm Millie. I am 33 and I'm the eldest. And I have 2 little kids, Maggie and Rocky.
I'm Daisy. I'm 30. I have 2 little boys and I'm Jim's youngest daughter, the favourite one.
Are you really?
Yes, I am.
Is she really the favourite?
Don't tell the other one.
I think so. It changes.
Yeah, it depends on the day.
Yeah, it depends on the day.
And so have you always had that kind of big sister, little sister dynamic? What's the vibe?
Yeah, I reckon we're way closer now than we were when we were teenagers. But we're pretty inseparable at the moment, like see each other, talk to each other every single day.
Yeah, I would always look up to Millie as like not only a sister but a motherly figure as well, because obviously we lost our mum when we were younger. So that's always been really nice for me.
Because you guys were pretty young when your mum died, right?
Yeah, I had just turned 5.
Yeah.
I don't remember too much of her at all, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember bits, but not a lot. But I remember Dad telling us, and that day was vivid. I remember every single detail. I remember our grandparents just took us to a park and we were just playing, and then we'd get home and I remember Dad was wearing this bright green jumper with a red letter on it. Yeah, then he sat down and told us and we just didn't believe him, and I ran around the house trying to find her, thought he was joking, and then pretty quickly realised it wasn't a joke, and yeah, it was pretty full on.
And what was your dad like at that time?
So strong. So strong.
Yeah.
We never saw the hard side of it because he was just a brave face.
He used to take us to school and all of our hair would be perfect, our lunches would be packed, our clothes would be perfect, and he would walk us to school and just have a brave face and then go home and just close the curtains and cry or be upset and, you know, reality would sink in. But, yeah, we never were aware of how hard it was for him.
Can we go back a few steps? Millie, how did you find out that your dad had received this dementia diagnosis?
So I was in Brisbane at this point and my family were in Sydney. And I remember hearing bits and pieces about how Dad had these scans, but they were really underplayed. Oh, I'm just going in for this thing. And so when he told me, I remember standing outside Maggie's room.
This is your daughter?
Yeah, and I was cleaning or something. And I was on the phone and I followed up about these scans, and then Dad said, well, I've been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and I just froze and felt like the floor had just been ripped under my feet and just couldn't believe what he was saying. I didn't know the severity of it, and I remember then Googling it and just I had to communicate it to my husband, and I was just like, this is unbelievable, like actually unbelievable. I just couldn't believe it.
What you were reading, did that match up with what you saw in your dad, I guess?
No. And then I thought, what haven't you been telling us, Dad? Because I thought, you know, he must not be telling us certain things about what he's remembering. And then he said, you know, when he went into one of the meetings, he was on his phone and couldn't remember how to put it on silent or something that, you know, everyone just knows how to do. So yeah, it was just wild. I just couldn't believe it, and also went just really numb, and then went down a bit of a rabbit hole of finding out about it. And we were all educating ourselves together because we didn't know anyone who's had it, not a grandparent, not a cousin or an auntie, like no one in our family, and he just got it, and it's just bizarre to us.
Do you advise the Dr. Google path? Is it helpful? I've spent so many hours reading everything I can find. I'm just not entirely sure how useful it is.
I think information is key. For me personally, I feel more comfortable with something the more that I know about it, can learn about it, read about it, can relate to it, hear people talking about the experiences that I'm going through, you know, it's comforting for me.
Whereas I found it, like, the more I read, the worse it got. And I just remember Ty being so incredible with advice and videos and things he had seen, and he'd share them with us. And that was really helpful to me. And then hearing through Dad's professionals as well, and Dad communicating it with us.
How involved have you guys been with all of the decision-making that's come along with this period of your dad's life? Because there's a lot of really confronting decisions that can be quite difficult. How much have you been part of that?
I'm power of attorney with Ty, and I have to, you know, make executive decisions like that for him. If Dad had to go into, get additional support or in a care home or something like that, then that's the responsibility that we would have to make together and make those decisions for him, the best for him.
You daunted by that?
Not really, actually. I think it's a big responsibility, but, you know, all I want is the best for him, and all I care about is, you know, his happiness, his health, what's most comfortable for him. So I feel happy to be on board making those decisions. I think it's really important to be prepared and have some sort of idea, not make a decision based on, you know, emotion. Because once they've declined and, you know, it's just incredibly raw and sad, you don't want to be making a decision based off those feelings. You sort of just have to start preparing of what you're wanting to be doing now whilst you can.
Obviously, your dad lives for the grandkids.
Yep.
How much of that can he still do, and how are you managing that as things evolve?
yeah, he's definitely an amazing granddad and is so present and, just gives 150% all the time.
Yeah, amazing granddad. My kids are just obsessed with him and Ty, and so much effort. Even Dad will go a week without seeing Maggie, and after 3 days he's FaceTiming her saying, "I miss you so much, Grand." They call him Grand. We'll see you really soon. And it just puts in so much effort. But we're just really mindful. Yeah, sometimes we have to say go and have a rest, or the 4 kids all together. Like, he loves everyone being all together, but it's also a lot and a bit of a sensory overload. So it's like we just make sure there's not music on and go for a little walk outside. So it just breaks it up a bit, and have that one-on-one with the kids is better for him.
He used to, have the kids on dedicated days. So, like, for example, he'd have Maggie on a Tuesday, Archie on a Thursday and things like that. And or Maggie would sleep over and things like that. But I think Millie and I are very conscious of him becoming tired, and it's quite draining for him now. So,
which he finds really hard because he wants to take them to their cottage, for a week and do all those things. And I really hope we can make that happen. But at the same time, like, we might not.
Yeah, it's hard to accept those things. Definitely, like, he'll say, wait till they're older and we'll all be going on holidays, or, we're going to get bunk beds and they'll all come for sleepovers and we'll watch movies. And it's so incredible to hear and think in your head, but it's like the other side of that is that really what's going to happen, and you hope and you pray, but you just never know. So it's double-edged sword in a way.
Your dad said to me that when your mum died, when Lorna died, he kind of went into a bit of a super dad mode. That was his response to it. And he compared that with now and learning the news and wanting to give you guys an impression of everything, that it was all okay. Can you see that?
Yeah, as soon
parallel?
as you just said that, I'm thinking, oh my God, he's done the same thing with our grandkids.
I for sure agree with that.
Like, super granddad.
Yeah, 150% all the time, every day, to protect them. But also for us, because he puts on a brave face for us as well, definitely.
Yeah, he definitely puts on a brave face. Yeah, like, we kind of forget what he's going through in a way because we don't talk about it that often. And he's doing so well that, sometimes we even forget. And then we just did a memory walk and we all got together, and that was really confronting because we don't do these things where we sit and talk about it. We try to put on a brave face too for him and just live normally.
I imagine for a lot of the people listening to this, it's kind of going to be a similar experience of, okay, we want to make the best of this time.
Yeah.
But there's also some really tough bits of this. So to the extent that you're happy to, can you just share a bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's, you put one foot in front of the other every day and you try and live a normal life and be there for him and things like that. But, yeah, you have moments where, like, I'll just not stop crying and just, like, fall into my husband's arms, and then I literally wipe the tears away and I'm like, no, I'm fine now, let's go. And I'll do that for another few months, and then I only did it recently with a friend and my friend's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, this is just wild because people ask you how he's going, and he's going so well. But when you think about what the future's going to bring, it's scary.
When you have those moments, what is it that you're thinking about?
My biggest thing is my daughter.
What are you doing, Mag?
Eating lollipop.
Eating the lollipop?
I'm eating on the bird.
And
You're a little bird.
for him not knowing who she is, because they're just so close. And she just lights up his life. All the grandkids do. But I think Maggie's a girl and she was the first, so she has this really special connection with Dad. So for me, it's that. I think I will be able to find a way to be okay. I will, but for her, that's what's really killing me. Yeah.
Dad and I are super close. He's like my best friend. So it's like I just can't imagine not having him to talk to or, you know, ask questions, because I literally lean on him for everything. Like, what pillow should I buy? It's a joke. It's ridiculous. You know,
They do talk. I'm like, Dad, can you answer my phone? Sorry, I was on the phone to Daisy. Can I have a minute?
Yeah, but, you know, my partner makes fun of me because he's like, oh, are we allowed to get, not allowed, but should we get this pasta? Or, you know, do you have to ask your dad first? You know, sort of thing. So we're super, super, super close, and I talk to him about everything. So, yeah, it's just like the thought of not having that is just, it's so hard to comprehend. And yeah, sort of I lock away those feelings because I don't want to deal with it. It's tough. It's really hard.
I know you sort of cautious in what you say because your dad will be listening to this. G'day, Jim.
Hi, Dad.
And there's obviously stuff that's difficult to talk about. What do you want him to know that you kind of haven't been able to say? Or
I want him to know that it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to be I don't want to say, I don't know the word. Vulnerable, yeah. It's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to use us for support and not always put on a brave face to, you know, protect us, because we, at this point in our lives, like, all we want to do is protect him. We just want to make sure that he's happy and comfortable, and anything that we can do to make him feel better, we'll do.
How about you, Millie?
Oh, just that he's the most, like, amazing person and the greatest dad.
He is, yeah.
And yeah, like Daisy said, like, let us help you. We have kids of our own now, so it's like we know that we're his babies, but it's like, let us help you. We just adore you, and yeah, he's just one of the greats.
Okay, Hamish, you've had the chance to dig into my family, so now it's my turn to turn the tables on you.
Great.
You're not used to being interviewed, so it's going to be interesting to put you in the chair, I think.
Yeah. Do your worst.
Firstly, I just wanted to go back and chat a little bit about your dad and ask you what qualities you think you might have got from him.
Probably a fair degree of stubbornness and iron will. Dad's also very independent and has always been very independent, and I think I've probably got that from him, like independent thinking.
Yeah.
I don't think Dad is someone that ever likes being told what to do, or even feeling like he's just going along with the pack. So maybe I've got that from him. Dad loves the outdoors and has always been very active and sporty, and I've got that too. So yeah, maybe I've got some of the good and some of the bad.
Let's hope more of the good. But you, since discovering his dementia, have you noticed any of those qualities that you talk about, his independence, being affected?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I guess one of the things about Dad's situation is that he's lost all of his independence. And I think that's what's been particularly confronting for him, but also challenging in terms of trying to help him deal with it and be cared for in the right way. So Dad was initially diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and then Lewy body dementia. Mm-hmm. And so he has, I think, always struggled with that diagnosis. You know, he's a pharmacist, so he knows all about the medication. He's able to talk very cognitively and in great detail about that side of it, but then will really lack insight into what his needs are and what his limitations are. So all the way through this process, it's been a real, I guess, point of friction for him with his family about what he is and isn't able to do.
And frustrating.
Oh, he's hugely frustrated. You know, he still wants to live on his own. He still wants to move to Queensland like you. He wants to live in a flat on his own in Queensland. He's wanted that right the way through this process, even though he can't cook or care for himself. He can't now use a phone or a laptop. He couldn't take money out of a cash machine. And that's been a sort of steady decline, I suppose. But this whole experience has meant that I've had a more kind of intimate relationship with Dad than what I would ever have expected, because you sort of have to get to know parts of your parent, you know, and their life in a way that you would never anticipate, and even see them, you know, sobbing on a bed, crying, or sort of talking about, you know, wanting their life to be over and things like that.
Things you never really expect to hear from the parents, sort of that role reversal.
Totally, but just also not even the parent-child part of the relationship, just it's not really him to kind of be like that. You know, he's always been this force of nature, very determined, very Scottish, you know, that kind of like hard Presbyterian work ethic and all that kind of thing, kind of dour guy. And yeah, so to see someone like that in a really deeply vulnerable situation is quite confronting.
I can imagine. Just take me back a little bit just to when was he diagnosed and what were the signs that sort of led to that diagnosis?
It was a fairly gradual process, actually. So I come from a place called Jindabyne in the Snowy Mountains of New South Wales. That's where I grew up, and Dad remained there up until a few years ago. Our house was out of town in a little hamlet called East Jindabyne, and my parents have not been together for a long time, so Dad was living there for many years on his own. And it was obvious to me, it had been obvious to me for some time, that he was not really himself, that things were declining a bit. There was no diagnosis, but for someone that had always been so physical and so active and so kind of disciplined, it seemed like that was falling away a bit. His clothes would kind of not fit, or his trousers would be falling down. You know, there'd be sort of more bathroom incidents. He was clearly, I guess, forgetful, or, you know, his long-term memory would be brilliant, but then there would be more obvious recent stuff that was sort of not all fitting together. The big thing that stood out to me was that he was just increasingly unable to kind of maintain the home.
And prior to that, was he always very organised, very on the ball?
Yeah, like he was never technological, so, you know,
very tidy and
yes, and very kind of just on point with stuff.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like that. I'd go down and the house would sort of look like, I used to describe it as being like it looked like the Unabomber lived there.
Yeah.
So I think he was coping or adapting to whatever was going on for him by putting everything that he needed out on benches rather than away in drawers. So all of the cutlery that he used would be kept on the bench.
So visible.
Yeah. Or he couldn't use the window blinds properly, so they'd have like post-it notes clipped to them showing him where to raise them to. Like
he had a backup plan for everything to try and make everything simplified.
Kind of, yeah. And I actually watched a story on the 7:30 report about an author in England that I think was living with dementia, and she was doing something very similar. So I guess I had some kind of inkling, but there was no diagnosis. Anyway, the GP from Jindabyne rang me and said, we think you probably need to come down and come to an appointment with him so we can just talk about where things are at. And Jindabyne's a small community. It's really tight-knit. Dad had been the pharmacy there for many, many years, so he knows most people in town. But basically the substance of this appointment or meeting was, you need to go to hospital, but you need to be tested for a whole bunch of things, because really the community's been supporting you a lot, but it's kind of becoming too much. And so it turned out he was reliant on people for lots of things, more so than we even knew. People were helping him change his bed sheets or helping him bathroom, or, you know, it was more than just kind of neighbourly, friendly help. And so when he was in hospital, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. It was subsequent to that he was then diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, which is not disconnected from Parkinson's. They're often described as being on a spectrum.
Yep.
And so he's been living with that ever since.
So who goes with your dad to his appointments now?
I go to a lot of them. My big sister sometimes takes him to his skin specialist appointments. Thankfully, we have a GP that visits him in the aged care residential setting that he's in. And, gradually he's going out to less and less appointments because it's become too difficult for him, actually.
Can it be tricky now negotiating who does what with the siblings?
Yeah, I mean, I think any family will have great challenges dealing with a relative that's living with dementia. And I think it's one of the things I've learned through this is just the value of communicating, having open conversations really early on, whether you have dementia in your life or not. But for adult children of parents to talk to them about what they want, what their wishes are, what the arrangements are going to be, and vice versa for the parents, who are aging to have those conversations as well. Even though some of the stuff might be confronting or difficult or emotional, I just think it's so much better to have those chats when you can and when there's not the
early on.
Yeah, totally.
And do you tend to agree, all of you, on the same thing? How do you come to an agreement?
Don't really. Yeah. So, it's been really difficult, and, obviously want to be respectful of others and,
It's tough. All of this is tough on a family, isn't it?
It absolutely is. People talk about dementia, rightly so, because of, and focus on the person that is living with that condition. But actually, I think when that happens, the condition impacts everyone in that,
It does, yeah.
In that little ecosystem. And the way I've approached it all along is just to try and give him dignity. Not that he's said this explicitly, but my impression is that he feels like the whole thing's very undignified. And he's an incredibly proud man, always has been. And my sense of it is that he feels humiliated by what he's living with and the situation that he's found himself in. And so I always just approach everything with trying to give him as much dignity around it as I can. So make sure he's always got nice clothes to wear, something that he would like, just trying to make sure that, the doctors are good, that attention is being paid to all the small details, so that, because it's very easy for someone in this situation just to be kind of lost in the system, I think. People living with dementia, they need love and they need support, but they need advocates as well. They need people that will go in with them to the appointments or follow up after the appointments or read the detail in the letters from the doctors or see the bit of medication that's missing or, just actually getting your head around the really fine detail of what someone's needs are and being able to advocate on their behalf. I never expected that would be part of this, but I think it is. Hold the Moment is a podcast from Dementia Australia. You can find it in all podcast apps. Don't forget, there are more resources available on the Dementia Australia website as well. And help is at hand via the free National Dementia Helpline. You can call it 24 hours a day, every day of the year, on 1800 100 500.
And we also have a bonus episode of tips for you from the helpline too. You'll find it in your podcast app now. So if your family needs help on navigating life, now you have a diagnosis, download it right now.
Hold the Moment is produced by Dead Set Studios for Dementia Australia. This episode was produced by Madeline Hawcroft, sound design by Sean Holden. The executive producers are Grace Pashley and Kelly Reardon. The production manager is Anne Chesterman.